Welcome and thank you for watching. Today we will see a SecOps solution demonstration using Micro Focus data center automation. In today's demo, Derek Kruger will have the persona as IT operations team member of Company X, and Eric Fisher will be a member of the security team at Company X.
Hey Derek, I hate to bother you on a Friday afternoon, but I've got a major problem. We just got a call from the CIO office. Our major e-commerce application just has a major vulnerability, and he's very concerned that we're going to lose business if we don't take care of this, and I mean like immediately. I know we got this new tool called Data Center Automation from Micro Focus recently, but maybe you can help me walk through, because I'm really concerned on how quickly I can get this resolved.
Sure, Eric. Yeah, I was on that email thread earlier, so I kind of got a little bit of a heads up as to what's going on, and I took some time to set some things up in data center automation so we can take a look at how we can solve your problem, and be happy to show you how to use it. So.
Derek, you're a lifesaver.
Hey, that's what I do. So why don't you log into the interface here, and let's take a look at it.
All right, so I should use that DCA admin user that you gave me a little bit ago, right?
Yeah, users DCA admin. And keep in mind, this user has full admin privileges, but we can use RBAC to set up different user credentials for different roles as well.
Well, fantastic. I am logged in, and I got a very colorful dashboard here, but I'm not really sure what I'm looking for. Can you kind of point me to where I can find my server and to see if it's got any problems I need to be aware of?
Sure. That email about the vulnerability was specifically around Spectre and Meltdown, and that's why I configured these top cards here on the dashboard to show those CVEs. But so it looks like we've got some affected resources, and unfortunately your critical application server, I believe, is one of them, but we can go ahead and take a look. So why don't you drill into that red section there on the dashboard for vulnerable resources, and let's look and see what resources are vulnerable across the infrastructure.
Okay, well, I got that loaded right now. Yes, I can definitely see that there's 4 servers here. Now, I'm a little confused. I got this compliance status, but vulnerability status. To me, they mean the same thing. Can you what's the difference, and why would I care about one or the other?
Sure, and I believe your resource is MS6, correct? That's your application
that's right.
server?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so I see on MS6 that it's not compliant, and it's got a vulnerability status of vulnerable. And the compliance status is specifically related to configuration, regulatory compliance, such as PCI, FISMA, SOX, HIPAA, CIS, for instance. And I know that particular server needs to comply with CIS. So it's saying that it's non-compliant with the CIS policy. And over on vulnerability status, I show that it's vulnerable, and that is specifically relating to the Spectre and Meltdown policy that I created. So I created a policy by using the CVE ID of those vulnerabilities, and unfortunately, I hate to break it to you, but your resource is affected by Spectre and Meltdown.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm glad we found that. So I definitely want to get into there. What do I just click on this to start fixing my problems?
Yeah, first let's go ahead and drill into that MS6 resource so we can get a better idea of exactly what's going on specifically with this resource. We'll kind of get your current state here. And this resource page here is the resource level dashboard. So this is really giving you all the important information you need to know about one specific resource.
Yeah, I see that right here. This looks great. I can definitely see my server name. It's got my Red Hat Linux 7. I've got some interesting information at the top right. I'm guessing this has to do with the vulnerability and the very scoring. Is that right?
Yeah, so we import the information directly from the NVD database, and that contains information about all the CVEs that they maintain in their database. And what you're seeing here is that that policy that was created for Spectre and Meltdown had all of the patches associated with that CVE ID for those 2 vulnerabilities. And your resource here looks like it needs 9 total patches. You'll see you've got a 1 high CVSS score, 3 medium, and the 5 with no value those patches that it needs are often dependencies of the primary patches. So to fix Spectre Meltdown, there's a required amount of patches, and those patches have dependencies. So that's why you're seeing 5 with no value there, for a total of 9 total needed patches.
Okay, so I need to actually create a quick change ticket, and with that I need to write the patches down. Can you show me where I can get that information so I can jot down those updates?
Yeah, sure. Why don't you scroll down on this resource view here and go into that scan job for Spectre and Meltdown and drill into that one right there on the top. Yep. And what we're going to do is see what the results were of the last scan job that ran. And what you see here is that it's non-compliant to the 2 different patch bundles that we have on this Spectre Meltdown policy. And if you drill into that one that says Spectre there, let's go ahead and see. So right here, these are the needed patches in order to address the Spectre vulnerability. And you can see we've got a score over there as well. So you could use this information for your change management system.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'm going to take a quick screenshot of this, and when we're done, I'm going to create a retroactive change ticket just to make sure we got this documented, but I really need to get this resolved quickly. Okay, can you point me to where I need to go to be able to just fix this problem?
Yeah, if you want to, let's go back to the MS6 resource there. Yeah, click on that breadcrumb. Yeah, the breadcrumb. And then do you want to take a quick look at what was found for CIS compliance?
Sure, why not? Yeah, just need to be really quick about it, but absolutely.
Yeah, let's just take a quick look. We'll see what it found, and then we'll go ahead and get your remediation out of the way. I know that fixing that vulnerability, Spectre Meltdown, is high priority. So go ahead and drill into the yellow section there where it says compliance summary by benchmark types. And that yellow area is non-compliant, but within SLO. So this resource is non-compliant. However, the service level objectives set by the organization said that it's okay if it's non-compliant, but it needs to be fixed within 60 days. So if we waited, if this resource wasn't remediated, then it would be non-compliant outside of service level objectives. So that's why you see that it's colored yellow right now.
So there's a time component of compliance. That's pretty fantastic. Cool.
Yeah, and I'll show you more details on that later here. But here on this screen, you see all the non-compliant rules, and it's important to know that some of these are best practices, things like password conventions. Some of this stuff we're not going to want to auto-remediate because it could potentially lock you out of your system. So, but a lot of this that you do see here, most of it will be auto-remediated. So it's important to know that. And if you drill into one of these results here, one of these non-compliant rules, it's important to point out here that all of this information directly relates back to the regulatory body. So you could take this information here and actually find this specific requirement in the CIS documentation that they publish. So
very cool.
Cool. So let's get you remediated. I know that's your high priority. So why don't you go ahead and hit the back button here. We're going to go back to the resource level view for MS6.
Okay, here we go.
All right. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and start auto remediation here. And this is, we're going to do an ad hoc remediation. I'll show you more how the job scheduler works later, but I know this is critical for you. You just want to get this job kicked off now. So go up to the Actions menu on the top right.
Okay.
And choose Remediate. And we're going to remediate this against the Spectre Meltdown patch policy. And once that job starts, you'll see a notification at the top of the screen that a job has started. So go ahead now and hit the Action menu again, and let's manually start a job to remediate this resource for CIS compliance as well.
Okay, so I can do both these at the same time?
Yeah, you can run both of those, and DCA will coordinate the work.
All right, the second job is started.
All right, so Now that those jobs are running, I want to show you a couple things. One is how we use an embedded orchestrator, operations orchestration, and that orchestrator is how DCA is able to communicate with all the different vendors of OS, database, and middleware, and actually perform all these actions. And I think your team, you're familiar with operations orchestration, but why don't you log into that operations orchestration tab there at the top, and let's take a look at the flow that's running right now to do that remediation.
Okay, and what was the username?
Username there is oo_admin.
Yeah, we've been using OO for many, many years, so definitely very comfortable and familiar with it. It's a fantastic orchestrator. So I see the dashboard. It's all very familiar here, and I assume that I should take a look at the run management. And yeah, actually, there's 3 flows running right now. Pop open one of these. It says policy remediate. Let's see this. Oh, yeah, there's a workflow.
Looks familiar,
there.
huh?
Yeah,
Looks
very familiar. In fact, that's a lot more sophisticated than anything that we've built in a while. Ours are usually quite simple. So I see a lot of logic and a lot of steps in here that it's taken care of.
Right. Yeah, and all of these flows come, out of the box as part of the embedded orchestrator. So they're all right there and ready to go. And DCA leverages these to perform its actions.
Very good.
All right. So why don't we pop back into the data center automation tab?
Okay.
And we got this remediation job running for these two policies, but I did some pre-work before you came over, so I want to kind of show you some of that, and we've got to wait for this to finish anyway. So let's go ahead and first we'll take a look at the patch bundles that I made. So select author up on top there.
Okay.
Again, it's important to point out that with an RBAC setup, we could have a role dedicated for authors as well, so that's their only action when they log in is to create policies. So my admin user has rights to do all of this right now. So now that you're on author here, let's start with the patch bundles. Select patch bundles in that left menu.
Okay, there it is. And there I got a whole bunch of them here: vendor recommended, Spectre, Meltdown, critical.
Right. So the vendor recommended patch bundles that you see there, those are kind of interesting because it doesn't actually contain a static list of patches, an explicit list of patches. Vendor recommended patch bundle in data center automation is really all about reaching out to that target and asking that target what patches does it need based on its own vendor recommendations. So this is really how you ensure you're patching to the level that the vendors have recommended. So that's how those policies work, or those patch bundles. And then down below you see the patch bundles that I made. So I made one called Spectre, and I made a patch bundle for Meltdown. So why don't you click on the Spectre patch bundle, and let me show you how that works. This is pretty unique.
Okay, got it loaded.
All right, so on this screen here, you see the patches that are listed in order to fix the Spectre vulnerability. And
yeah, they look familiar.
Neat feature here, if you click the plus, which is how you would add a patch to a bundle, you'll notice that when this comes up, we see all the available patches sorted by sortable by severity, CVE name, etc. You can also filter this on applicable scope to the vendor platform if you wanted to. So what I did to make this policy was I just hit search. I put the CVE number in of Spectre. I searched and I found all the available patches for Spectre, and I selected them. So, and these applicable scopes that you just saw there were RHEL 7, but of course you could change the applicable scope as well. So that's how you can search, and you get the CV
just
score.
Put in a partial number here, and it pulled up everything, all the CVEs of 2017, so all the ones from last year.
Exactly.
And, in this case, looks like highly dependent on Red Hat 7, but yeah, because we got a lot of RHEL 7 in our environment right now. So this is pretty cool. The fact that I don't even have to think about it, I don't have to look anything up. It's all right here, and I assume this is all, did you have to, import this information from, kind of link it to the patches?
Sure. So basically, we're using patch metadata from a RHEL satellite server or WSUS server, for instance, directly from the vendor, and then we import the CDE metadata from the MVD database directly. So this linkage is all done automatically. So once
So you
you
really
bring
didn't
that
have to do
CVE in,
anything. You just, search for the right CVE number, you check them over here, check for the right ones, add them to the bundle, and that made the bundle. That sounds
yeah,
really easy.
I literally set this up from scratch this morning, so it was not difficult. Yeah.
Very cool.
So yeah, so that's how I made that policy. So if we go back to, or bundle, sorry, patch bundle. If we go back to the patch bundles,
Mm-hmm.
there, let's see. So we got Spectre and Meltdown, and I talked about the vendor recommended. Let's take a quick look at benchmarks. So click benchmarks on the left menu there.
Yeah, what is a benchmark, and how is that different from the patch bundles?
Right. Good question. The benchmarks are more configuration, and they're based around policy like CIS and FSMA and HIPAA, your regulatory compliance. Now, it's important to note that you can create custom benchmarks with custom controls to do any kind of configuration. Check, for instance, if your servers are configured to talk to the right DNS server, with automated remediation to configure them to talk to the correct one. So anything from regulatory to corporate compliance, you would do those configuration items as benchmarks. Now, DCA comes out of the box with benchmarks for CIS, FSMA, HIPAA, SOX. And these benchmarks span OS, database, and middleware across multiple vendors. And data center automation doesn't just have the scanning content, but we also include that remediation content there as well.
That's very cool. Yeah, I know that when I talked to the CIO office recently, they were very concerned about PCI. It's a standard we're going to have to start enforcing, and that's going to be coming down our plate next. I can see right here you got some PCI. I assume this is all the PCI rules. Is that what you were saying?
Yep, and those benchmarks, they contain applicable scopes across multiple platforms as well. So we've got PCI across the board.
So if I click on this, I can actually see what's in here?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, if you click on that PCI there, you'll see that it's got all the requirements for PCI are built in. And again, all of these sections you see here directly map to the documentation that PCI produces. So it's easy to correspond. A lot of security products, will create the requirements for a policy, but you have no easy way of mapping it back to the exact requirement that was published by PCI. So it's a really nice feature here. So, I'm sure you've heard me talk about, I've said the policy word a few times. Are you kind of curious what a policy is?
Yeah, in fact, not only I'm curious about the policy, but I want to make sure, because we also, especially around PCI and CIS and all the other buzzwords you just used,
Sure.
can we write our own scripts and rules? We've got this library of all these scripts that we run when a server is built. Can we take those and put them in here easily, or have you already done that?
Yeah, I'm using these policies right now out of the box the way they are, but you can certainly create custom benchmarks as well and leverage the out-of-the-box control library to create custom scripts as well. And you can script in any interpreter you want. We're even set up to be able to handle multiple interpreters. We have a Python as an interpreter right now, so we could create a custom Python script to go out and check for just about anything and remediate against anything. So,
very cool. Yeah, today we built a whole bunch of workflows that go and run scripts on our servers, but this seems like to be a much better solution, especially because it can actually show us based on time or the red and green dashboard status. We're not getting any of that right now with the OO flows.
Right, and with using DCA's compliance features here, we really can create a policy to check just for anything, and like any other policy, know if you're compliant or not. You could do a complete configuration profile based on all of your corporate configuration needs, whether it's how you configure a application server or a load balancer or whatever that may be, and simply scanning that resource against that custom benchmark in DCA will tell you all of the configuration items that are out of compliance. And the best part is after you get that report, you can execute remediation and bring that resource back into a desired state. So it's really powerful. If we get some time after this demo, or maybe tomorrow, I know it's getting late for you now, I'd love to show you more about the custom benchmark ability.
Yeah, very good. So we got our benchmark. You mentioned controls recently, briefly. I assume that's really where the scripts live for the checks and the remediation. We got our bundles and our patches. So how do you glue all this together? How do I tell my server, here are all the things I want to apply and go do it?
Sure. Let's take a look at policies. I think policies is the one piece that starts to bring all of this together. And this is what data center automation is good at, is policy-based compliance. So I'll show you a little bit about what that is. And first what we can do is look at the policy. We'll look at a policy that I created. So open up the Spectre and Meltdown policy.
Okay.
All right, so the policy has a few main elements here. We're going to start off with our service level objectives, and you'll probably notice there's a measurement service level objective and a remediation service level objective.
Yeah, I see that. What's the difference there?
So the service level objective, when it involves DCA's policy-based compliance, is simply, for instance, measurement service level objective is the frequency in which you need to perform a scan. How often do you need to measure this resource to be within your own service level objectives? So in this particular case, I just put in 1 day. You could have, let's say, a measurement service level objective of every month, with a remediation service level objective of every 60 days. And just like measurement, remediation service level objective is the frequency in which a resource needs to be remediated. So maybe we have a little bit longer to fix the problem once we know about it. But that's how the service level objectives work. So they're the frequency that the scan needs to occur. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does. Okay. In fact, we've got development servers that we don't have to patch until they're 60 days old, and who cares? But we definitely like this application that we just set up to update today. That has to be immediate, especially for 0-day events.
Exactly. So we'll also see here that we've got a spot for benchmarks and patch bundles. This particular policy doesn't have any benchmarks. I only have patch bundles. Now it's important to point out you could have one policy with both benchmarks and patch bundles. I chose to make it separately. With patch bundles, I attached those bundles that we checked out earlier for Spectre and Meltdown. So I attached those there. And then the last element you see at the bottom is the non-compliance actions. This is what you want to have happen when these resources that are used or scanned against this policy are found to be non-compliant. So I see here there's no non-compliance actions. So go ahead and click on the plus icon near non-compliance actions, and let's make one.
Okay. All set. Here we go. Non-compliant action. There's another plus. Do I go click on that again?
Yep. Click on that. All right. So we're going to set an auto remediate. So right now, if we scanned it manually, we could scan it manually and we could remediate manually, just like I showed you earlier. But the server that we're working on today, I know it's your critical server. But the reality is that we need to make sure this vulnerability doesn't exist anywhere else either. So let's make sure it gets done automatically. So let's choose a remediation action of remediate in maintenance window. Okay. You'll also see here too, you can do notifications via email as well. So if a resource is found to be non-compliant, you could send an email to notify that server team, let's say that it's a non-compliant resources status has been found.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand this. So, this system is going to scan my servers. There was that measurement SLO that you were just talking about. It's going to scan my server, it finds an issue, and the way that we're setting right here is as soon as it finds an issue, it's going to put it in the queue so that during the next, the remediation maintenance window, it will go ahead and automatically install the updates and make the configuration changes. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about service level objectives and the frequency, and you just nailed it with the maintenance window, remediate in maintenance window. So what we'll do next is I'll show you the resource group and how we attach that maintenance window to show you exactly, how that works. So basically the scheduling is a function of the SLO plus a maintenance window. And in data center automation, the resource group owns the policies and the maintenance windows. So we'll take a look at a resource group. So go up to the top bar there that says resource management, click on that. And then from there, hit resource groups. And when that resource group opens, you'll see some resource groups that I made. For instance, we've got our hybrid two-tier front-end and back-end deployment. These were resources that were provisioned as part of a hybrid cloud management provisioning service request, as well as our Puppet managed servers. Data center automation, manages Puppet managed and server automation managed resources. So go ahead and open up my Puppet managed server. Since your critical application server is managed by Puppet, it'll be in this resource group. Now, it's important to note that you could put this Puppet server in other resource groups as well. I just grouped all the Puppet stuff together, but it doesn't have to be done that way.
Yeah, I'll probably want to peel that off and just have a group specifically for this one application.
Correct, and you can easily do that. So here on the resource group view, this is similar to the resource detail view. This is the resource group detail view. So it's giving you information about the group. And I can see here I've got a compliance summary, for instance, of all the resources in the group, and this is a combined number. And then below that, I've got the resources that are members of this resource group.
Yep, there's my server.
Yep, so your server, MS6, is in this group. And then you'll see here we've got maintenance schedules. So this is basically a maintenance window. This is, if SLO defines the frequency, the maintenance window defines when the work can be done, when's an acceptable time to have the work done.
So I see in here you've got this monthly scan, but a bi-monthly remediation. Like if you're scanning once a month, but you're fixing things twice a month, like why are those different? Like, and why are they both here?
Sure. It's important to point out that just because there's a window does not mean that work is going to be done then. Think of the window as the opportunity here. We've got two different windows, and we've got a bi-monthly window for remediation. So DCA has the opportunity to do a remediation job twice a month. Doesn't mean that it will. Same with the scan. It has an opportunity to do a scan. Now, that bi-monthly remediation window, if you open it up, let's open up the bi-monthly remediation. I'll show you something how the maintenance windows work. So yeah, there you go. Okay, so go ahead and hit that, select that drop-down box under type. See where it says read and write?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is the type of maintenance window. You'll notice it's read and write. So technically, a scan or a remediation could happen in this window as well. So we can actually customize this however we want. And this, again, creates the window where DCA could do the work. And you'll see a start time, a stop time, and we've got a recurrence pattern. So this window here recurs every 2 months on a particular weekday. So we've chosen the second Sunday of the month. And I just created these, but you could do this however it works best for what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool, and because it's attached to the resource group, I assume that whoever has permissions to manage the resource group can actually manage the maintenance windows themselves, almost giving them self-service to be able to update and change the maintenance windows based off of the criticality of their applications or its sensitivity to doing it certain days of the week or weeks of the month.
Absolutely, and that's the beauty of DCA, is that if you put the resource owners in charge of their own maintenance schedules and the policy authors in charge of creating the policies and setting the SLOs, what you get is that each team can do what's relevant to them and DCA together will combine that for the scheduler. And I'll explain the scheduler here real shortly because it's a really neat part of data center automation. Why don't you close this?
Interesting part of the conversation you bring up, because we actually do within our service desk system, we have our own lookup table where you can record what your preference would be, so that when we're doing change, we can reference that. Can these two systems be linked, or if I set something there, can it be updated in DCA?
Absolutely. DCA has a great API. Every feature you've seen in this interface is available through the API, and that API, you could use it to create maintenance schedules. For instance, you could use operations orchestration to sync the database of your other application, and then have OA reach out to data center automation through the API to create the maintenance schedules. And I actually have a demo of a custom application that consumes the API to create maintenance schedules. If we have time later, I can show you that.
That was fantastic.
Sure. Go ahead and close this view.
Okay.
Here, and click that blue breadcrumb to go back to the resource group. And scroll down for me. Now you'll see here we've got some exceptions, and it's important to point out that we can create exceptions. For instance, any kind of best practice that is recommended by CIS that you can't remediate against could be accepted here. So it's important to point out you can create exceptions for specific resources, especially. So you might have one resource where a network vulnerability is blocked at the network layer, and so therefore the machine does not need to be compliant, for instance, in that example. So
yeah, we live our lives around exceptions, so it's good. And it looks like I see a date in the future, 2030. It looks like we can actually record expirations. Is that what that is? An expiration of an exception?
Yep, you can set an expiration, and it has a full tracking system too, so you can track who made the exception as well as why the exception was made, and of course set that expiration date.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Done my work for me.
So now you've got your SLOs are set at the policy, and we just created the maintenance schedules, right? Mm-hmm. But if I asked you, when is DCA going to scan this resource, would you know?
I'm guessing you're going to tell me.
You got it. So basically, once we've got the two main components, the service level objectives, and we've got the maintenance schedules, DCA, again, puts those together and comes up with an automated schedule. So it will actually determine when those resources need to be scanned and remediated in order to keep them in compliance and within your SLOs. So it's doing that for you based on those two different elements. So again, if we've got two different personas doing this, if your team is doing the policies and another team on the resources is doing the resources that they own, the maintenance windows, all the scheduling is being done for you. So it's eliminating all that back and forth conversation about requesting a window from the security team and that back and forth approval process. It's letting everyone do what matters to them, and DCA is the glue behind the scenes bringing it all together.
Very cool. And where can I see what my schedule actually looks like, how it's being, what the math behind it ends up looking like?
Sure. Let's go take a look at the jobs report. So if you click jobs up there on the top, and when this page loads here, go ahead and change the filter and set that filter to show you scheduled jobs. So uncheck those first two there. Yeah, there you go. And let's see what this says. All right.
Very cool.
So, yeah, so you'll see here we've already got some jobs that are auto-scheduled. And so DCA knows if it, for instance, it says I'm going to put this job in this window because if I wait for the next window, then this resource will be outside of service level objectives. And data center automation's goal is to keep you within your service level objectives. It's also going to prioritize jobs based on severity of the vulnerability or the compliance benchmark. So it's going to put more important jobs first. It's also going to take into account how many jobs are already running in that window. If a job could be scheduled in 2 windows and still be compliant, but one window has a lot of jobs running already, it will automatically bump that job to another window. So it's constantly doing the balancing act behind the scenes. So this is huge because you're not having to manually create and schedule all of these jobs for the thousands of servers that are in our organization. So it's pretty cool.
Derek, you've described some really cool capabilities here. It's almost too good to be true. It seems like this is a very, and I use a cliche or a commercial advertising key phrase, set it and forget it, right? Just kind of put in the schedule, attach to the policies, or getting the benchmarks and the policy, definitions directly from, global databases that are maintained outside of our organization, and once it's in here, you just don't have to worry about it. You can, now reporting, all the data lives somewhere. I mean, how do I understand, or how do I do custom reports if I need to?
Absolutely. All of the data that we collect as part of the compliance jobs that are running is all stored in our data lake powered by Vertica. And so that data, once it's available there, it could be leveraged by other suites, for instance, Operations Bridge if you wanted to, or other applications and tools. It's all available and there to use in any kind of way you want. In fact, everything that you saw on our dashboard, and we'll go take a look at our dashboard again here in a minute, all of that data is stored in Vertica. It all exists and it can be leveraged any way you want. And in today's world, it's all about analytics and data and giving you the power to use that data however you see fit.
Very good. It sounds like I use my Tableau product that I've got for all my other reportings. I can just point it right at Vertica then.
Absolutely.
Oh, cool.
Nothing stopping you from doing that.
All right. So can you, just so we can sign off for the day, maybe we can check on the status of our job.
Yeah, why don't we, let's go look at the resource level dashboard and verify that our remediation jobs have finished. So yeah, we can start at the main dashboard too if you would like. Now we should have, if we drill into the not vulnerable resource, we should now see our resource listed on this list.
Oh, wow, there it is. Green, green, green. Love green.
Yeah, so there you go. You can sleep tonight because your critical application server is compliant and not vulnerable. So go ahead and drill into it. We'll take one last look at it. And we should see here that we don't need any patches and that the resource is fully compliant.
I love it. Look at that. 0 and then, yeah, green across the board. So it's meeting all of our requirements. And there's my recording of my job, the CIS completed, the Spectre meltdown policy remediated.
Yep.
And if I want to see what happened, I can actually, can I click on the job and see more information?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you click on that patch policy there, you'll see that it's now compliant with that Spectre and meltdown patch bundle.
Server was compliant.
There you go.
Very cool.
Yeah, so you're good to go on this resource now. I'd love to set up some time with you to cover some other topics a little bit deeper if you'd like, but you're good to go.
This is great, Derek. I appreciate it. You let me, we finished this up and with a little bit of education in less than 30 minutes. So I want to thank you. Have a great weekend, and maybe we'll see you at the bar this weekend.
Sounds good. Take care, Eric. Thanks for watching. This concludes the SecOps solution demonstration using Micro Focus Data Center Automation. If you'd like follow-up or a deeper dive on any of the features that you saw today, please contact Micro Focus, and a rep would be happy to show you more about this product. Thanks.